An inquest has been hearing evidence from a security guard involved in restraining an Angolan man who died whilst being deported. Stuart Tribling said he could not remember hearing Jimmy Mubenga complain that he could not breathe. He also told the court he'd shared racist jokes with G4S colleagues by text message. Our special correspondent Kurt Barling has been at the inquest today. And Kurt, today it was the turn of Mr Mubenga's escorts to give the evidence.
You know, it's always a troubling and tense day when the family gets to hear for the first time directly from those people who were involved in a death in custody. Of course, that's the case here. We heard from Ian Duckers and we heard from Stuart Tribling, two of a party of 4 escorts or detainee custody officers taking Mr Mubenga onto that British Airways flight. Mr Duckers, for example, was asked repeatedly about what kind of training he had, in particular whether he'd been trained about the dangers of restraint. He said yes, he had. Mr Tribling told the jury he'd in fact been suspended since 2010 when this incident happened, and he gave a very detailed recollection of the arrival on the plane. He said, "I said to Mr Mubenga, please take your seat." He said, "I'm not going to." And he then lunged at me and the buttons were ripped off my shirt. That was at the point at which this exchange on the plane escalated. The incident escalated and they handcuffed Mr Mubenga behind his back, and he continued to struggle. And then he suddenly went silent and quiet. And at that point, Mr Tribling was asked, well, if you'd known there was something wrong, would you have done so? He said, I certainly wouldn't have held him down in that position. And we did not hold him down, force him into that position he was in.
The coroner also asked about these apparently racist jokes that were being bandied about.
This is very curious, you know, because the coroner really pressed Mr Tribling on this. Apparently, there were a number of racist jokes exchanged by text between G4S colleagues. She asked, did you pass these jokes on? And if you didn't find them funny, why did you pass them on? He said, look, they were just doing the rounds. I passed them on. He said that it wasn't a reflection of who he was as a person. And of course, no one in court was laughing. He was obliged to read 3 of those so-called jokes out. Nobody laughed. The coroner said it suggested there was possibly disrespect for black people. And he said that in no way did this affect the way in which he dealt with a majority of detainees who are black. He answered no to that. It was Mr Tribling, let's not forget, who aborted the deportation, asking for the flight to return when he realised that Mr Mubenga was unresponsive, and the inquest is due to last until July.
OK, Kurt, thank you.